Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show where I help you spend your wine dollars wisely. And I'm very, very excited to have Patrick Neri here. He is the owner of the import company Beso Imports, and he focuses on solely Mexican wines.
Just Mexican wines.
Just Mexican wines.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited because I'll just give a little input here and let him talk after that. When I first, it was about what, 4 years ago? 3?
I guess it was 4.
4 years ago. He came by my office. I tasted through all his wines, or not all of them, but what he brought. Took copious notes and was very impressed with his palate. Not all importers have the best palates. Just saying.
Thank you.
I won't name names, but some of them bring in stuff that you wonder why they brought it into the States. Just saying. So Patrick, I think, and it's genius that he chose Mexican wines because everybody wants to import French, Italian, Spanish. I mean, everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
But why did you choose Mexico? Take it away, Patrick.
All right. Well, for starters, thanks for having me on the show here. This is a real honor. Seriously. Ever since the first time that I poured for Stan, it's been, just a kind of awesome friendship. It was really cool because the first time that he poured, he was so intent on taking like really, really descriptive notes, better almost than anyone I had seen. And actually some of the other reps were like, yeah, when you sit down with Stan, he like takes these long notes forever. But I really appreciate that. And you guys, anyone who has a chance to buy wine from him in Kings there understands that like it's a very, very tightly curated section. So it's an honor to have wines on the floor and of course an honor to be here. But yeah, for me, the Mexican wine thing, it came out of having found something that was so cool I couldn't pass it up. I mean, that's really what it was. And I think you're right that it was, just my palate, my experience with wine, that when I sat down with my very first bottle of really good Mexican wine, I had all that reference to realize that this was something that needed attention, that had been completely... people hadn't given it enough attention, and that was the beginning of a long process of digging into really like all the different states in Mexico that make wine, and realizing that there's just a huge and amazing story to be told there. So yeah, I mean it wasn't initially. I think it's kind of cool that initially I didn't start thinking of it as a business. It was really just curiosity. So that helped out a lot.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because it was really just like I just wanted to understand. I love wine, and here's a whole wine region that's right on our front doorstep that I don't know about.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was like, okay, let's like start to explore that. And later on, it was like, okay, nobody's doing anything with this. Let's go for the best of the best. Really, approach Mexico like anyone would Burgundy or Bordeaux or any of the any major wine region in the world. And I took it real comprehensively like that. And so that's kind of how we've ended up with what we've ended up with. It's I've tasted hundreds and hundreds of wineries to arrive at the 29 estates that we work with.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I really appreciate. I mean, pretty basically, I would say 98.9% of the wines I've tasted from you, I've really, really enjoyed.
Yeah. Thanks.
And recent one, I want to show them this right now, so we don't take time later. But
oh yeah.
Patrick just introduced me to this one. I want to show you guys because if you ever get your hands on this, you'll be really surprised at how good it is. This is a 2021 Lomita Cabernet Sauvignon. It runs in at $19 retail. Give you a little shot of the label.
Yeah, cool.
And
label.
this might be one of the best cabs I've tried at this price point. I've tried a lot at this price point. This is a great price point, under $20.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm not trying to sell your wine, but
please do.
Yeah, I really appreciate how good this was, and I just bought this bottle today because I wanted some more of it. Which I don't often do that because I have a whole bunch of wine right there.
It's true.
Yeah. So you have 29 estates that you work with.
Yeah, 29 right now.
And how long did it take you to get to the point where you said, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to import? What was that process like, getting into the import side of it?
Yeah, good question. It was like 5 years of really traveling around the region. Yeah, and I spent the majority of my time in northern Baja. I don't, if you guys don't know, again, like I mentioned, 13 states in the nation in Mexico make wine. But northern Baja, a region called Valle de Guadalupe, is the one that's getting, especially at that time, that was getting the most attention. And the cool thing about Baja is that you have all these winemakers that have been they've been grape growers for generations,
Right,
but they've
yeah.
never made their own wine. That basically starting in the 1980s, they started to make their own wine. They were selling their grapes to Consolidator before that.
Okay.
And so now you have this huge diversity there. So just attacking Baja was huge because at that time there was like 150 wineries.
Wow.
And really like, you know, to know more than just the wine from the tasting room, to like meet the people, get to their vineyards, really understand how they make their wine, taste back vintages, all that kind of stuff. It took a long time. And again, like I said, I was just doing it for fun. It was just curiosity. And so, yeah, it was years of that process.
So, but when you decided I wanted to start importing these wines, what was that process like?
Yeah, well, it's, you know, I mean, there's the whole like government, you know, international paperwork to be done, you know, creating a business and basically getting some of these wineries to trust us with the idea of bringing in their wines, which is huge because, you know, I'd never done anything. I've never been involved in sales of any sort, let alone wine sales. So, you know, for them to put that vote of confidence in us was a big thing. And actually, to get your license as an importer, you have to get a letter from at least one winery saying they want you to be their importer.
Oh, that's right.
Which is kind of interesting, because we had to like, you know, and actually it was Lomita, the Cabernet that you just showed up there. That was the very first winery that we.
How fortuitous.
They were exactly. They were the ones who gave us that paper. So.
Now you probably have people calling you.
And now, so it was just like kind of creating this, you know, reputation that, hey, we're really going to do this well. We really love these wines. It's not just a passing fancy here. We're not treating this as some, you know, quick get rich quick thing. Of course, you're not importing Mexican wine getting rich quick anyway. But yeah, now definitely I'm going down in a couple weeks, and you know, there's people that are already starting to drop off samples at the hotel that I'm going to because they, you know, want us to try the wine. So it's pretty cool.
So you get a little bit of my world.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I get to be stand for a weekend. But yeah, it's you know, and then I would say, you know, the idea was, okay, for starters, we need to do this perfectly, and that means that we have to transport it correctly from the wineries to a warehouse that perfectly temperature controls, humidity controls, vibration, light, all that kind of stuff. Things that most importers and distributors actually aren't paying attention like to the level that we are.
Right.
Because I felt like, okay, you're going to occasionally run into a bad bottle, but I don't want any bottles to be bad because they weren't handled correctly or stored correctly. So we decided to be importer and distributor. I wanted to make sure that the connection between their cellar and the door of, you know, King's or wherever we sold to, it was I knew that it was handled correctly the whole way. So it's still actually me in Washington State that delivers these wines, which is quite impractical, but you know, we're still doing that. And then so then the process is that eventually we've created relationships in a number of different states with distributors who are now just selling our wine in like New York and Massachusetts and Texas and California and things like that. So so it's just that process of kind of, you know, proving the concept, which we've kind of done in Washington, and then expanding out from there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Let's start seeing what you got here. A little side story. I don't want to get too long-winded here, but I had a person that was a beer rep for me for a long, long time. I mean, Mark Girdler called on King's Market where I worked for, well, the whole time I was there. And I knew him for probably 25 years, 30, maybe close to 30 years. 25 for sure. And he's the one that came up to King's and said, hey, my daughter, his daughter is...
My fiance.
Yeah.
And yes. Lisa Strandberg.
Lisa.
Yeah.
Lisa and her boyfriend at the time are getting into, you know, importing Mexican wines. I think you should visit him and see what he's doing. So that's how we kind of got connected, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
And so that I think he came up on your on his recommendation. You came and saw me at the store.
Yes. And I knew you from before, but probably you didn't remember.
That's
from
right. You
when you had
the
other wine store across from King's.
Brazenly Lucid Wines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
For a brief time, but that was fun.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. So. Yeah, but it's true that's kind of a funny thing that Lisa, who's my partner in this business, her dad was like one of the main reps for the islands here, so it's kind of cool for wine and beer before that, and
he was milk when he worked for, I think he worked for Skagit, Alpine, and then he ended up with AB.
Yeah.
Crown, where they didn't have much wine.
Yeah.
And I think that's when he started losing a little bit of interest.
Yes.
He liked the wine side.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah. Great guy.
All right.
All right.
So talk about your Monte Xanic.
Okay, so check this out. I'm going to correct Stan on two things here. First
Oh, I said
thing
it.
is Beso Imports, and that it actually
Beso.
well, it's kind of cool because it's the word for kiss in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
So we feel like behind all wine there should be romance, and so that's kind of why we
Beso.
started out. Yeah, Beso Imports. And this is Monte Xanic. The X sounds like an SH. So
so
it's
Xanic.
Xanic, but yeah, it's Xanic.
Xanic.
Yeah, and so it's kind of cool. Like in the bit of the story that I started going to before about Valle de Guadalupe being sort of the birthplace of boutique wineries in Mexico, these guys really started that trend. They were the first one in the 80s that decided, you know what, we're going to make wine from our own grapes. The initial NAFTA agreement was signed over a bottle of their Chenin Blanc, which is also on the floor of King's right now. This was the first white wine from Mexico to get on the French Laundry's list. It's been a big seller for us. It's one of our best. It's really cool. It comes from a single vineyard on the Monte Xanic estate called Vina Kristel, and it's named after the owner's daughter. And it's cool. It's a vineyard that was planted by a group of pacifists, Russian pacifists that left Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution. So this is like early 1900s, and they came to Mexico and they ended up planting this vineyard and a lot of Valle de Guadalupe. And so it's cool to get a Sauvignon Blanc at this price point. I think you probably sell it at around. I don't think you have this one on the shelves right now, but it goes for right around $19.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
And to have an old vine Sauv Blanc, and so I think a lot of the character in this Sauv comes from the old vines for starters, and then the nature of the soil as a vine gets older, of course it's deriving more. The fruit that it delivers is deriving more characteristic from what's beneath the ground than what's above it. Progressively it's kind of getting these more kind of like mineral characteristics. Mm-hmm. This is kind of like a combination of granite and clay in this vineyard. So yeah, I mean it's pretty impressive. I think on the nose this is like there's nobody who's gonna like smell this wine and not identify it as Sauv Blanc if you know what Sauv is.
Yeah, it definitely has a grapefruit side. But what I like about the nose on this one is you get a little bit of that tropical fruit on it too. Yeah,
and you get that in a lot of Sauv Blancs in this region. That's kind of something you get with areas that are warmer, and in this area you get really cool nights, which is where you get the acidity from, because the plant can respire at night. And
what is the diurnal shift? What does it go from what to what?
It goes from like 80, 85 kind of during the day to like 40s at night.
Oh, okay.
So it's huge, and that's the key that the bit that Stan just hit on, that diurnal shift, difference between day and nighttime temperatures.
I was going to show him it has a tropical note on it. It's almost turns to mango peach on the color.
Yeah. The bottle has a tiny bit of a green. The actual glass has a touch of green to it, so it looks a little bit, throws kind of a funny color in the bottle.
But I get I'm getting some mango on this, which is with the grapefruit.
And it's just a balanced wine. I mean, it really, it's.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's super refreshing on the palate. It's got
almost got a little lychee nut on it.
Sure. Yeah. It's got that great acidity, but it's not something that's gonna I mean, some of the Sauv Blancs from like Sancerre and different regions that can get really austere. It can be really, really kind of harsh for a period of time. This is like easily drinkable now. Yeah. But I mean, it's something that you could, you're not afraid if you get a bottle and don't drink it within that year for sure.
And you were telling me this is a different winemaker than the one I had before.
Yes. Good point. Yeah. So they had Cristina Pino, who's now with Santo Tomas, and this guy, he actually came from what was actually the oldest winery in the New World. Still, it's called Casa Madero, and it's in the state of Coahuila in Mexico. And he made their white wines for about 10 years. And now his name's Oscar Ganoa, and he's implemented this cool thing. He started to do multiple harvests, which is a really, really great solution in this area to get just the right balance. I mean, in any area, to be honest, because if it's a luxury, right? Because it's going to cost a lot more to do multiple harvests rather than one. But if you harvest just once, you're usually trying to pick that sweet spot where most of the fruit's ripe, some of it's overripe, some of it's underripe. When he does these multiple harvests, he's really just getting ripe fruit over the course of 3 different harvests and then bringing it into one blend. So it's really cool.
Don't mean to interrupt, but just so you know, every winemaker will tell you it's harder to make white wine than red wine.
Yeah.
And that was a surprise. I just learned that. I never thought about it really until we were doing one of our tastings, and the guy said, "Yeah, I don't want to make white wine anymore because it's the hardest to make." So I started asking questions.
Yeah.
And I asked Vipon from Walla Vintners. I can't think of his first name. It's up. Anyway, he said it's because you only get one shot at it.
Yeah.
You know, like with red wine, you can say, "Oh, it's not exactly right, so I'll grab this barrel and do that and that."
Yeah.
But you're saying by doing multiple vintages, he's able to hone it down a little bit better.
Multiple harvests.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Then he can really just get, and then he's also got the luxury of, deciding whether or not in the end, if he's going to blend all those three together. He may not. He may decide, like this is just not like, it's going to take away from the end product or so. So
I'll
it's
have to
really,
bring that back in. I was. Just to be quite honest, the other one I didn't like as much.
Yeah.
So now, this is really, really good.
Very fresh.
Really dialed it in. Yeah. I wouldn't call it a quaffir, though. It's some serious business. You probably could need some muscles with that one.
Well, like you said, you had mentioned before, because you'd just done this awesome Sauv Blanc Day tasting yesterday, that you don't like your Sauvs to be flabby. Well, I mean, neither do I, and there's nothing flabby about that. But again, you put that with a salad, you put that with, like you said, oysters, mussels.
I don't often have my guests pour for me.
Well, this is kind of, Mexican hospitality, really. I'm Italian, by the way, but...
I couldn't tell. I thought you said you were British.
Oh, no. I mean, I've got a little bit of Manx in me.
That's it.
Yeah.
So this is, we better... What's wrong with me?
Yeah, sorry.
So I'll probably say it wrong so you can correct me.
No, it's okay.
Polonie's wines. That sounds pretty straightforward.
Yep.
70% Cab, 20% Merlot. This is a 2020.
70-30.
70 Cab, 30 Merlot, sorry.
No worries.
It's starting to sound like Mark Ryan. Okay, and this is Baja.
Yeah.
And it is... now, you say it so well.
Valle de Guadalupe.
Valle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Valle.
So they're like obviously they're like Spain where they don't say the L's.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The
Unless
L's
there's only one.
Exactly. If there's one, it's like the word tortilla. Same thing. You don't pronounce the L.
Yeah.
It sounds like an E.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Humia.
Yeah.
Okay. Cab Sauv Merlot, 2020.
Yeah.
And this rolls in at retail. What?
This is also right about $19.99. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's what I like about Patrick. Nothing he has is really super expensive except a couple things.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I did try to find stuff that just at every price point it needs to, if it's going to be Mexican wine, at least in my opinion right now, it has to kind of like punch above its weight class. And so that's what I'm shooting for here.
I like that, punch above its weight class.
Yeah, well, there you go. You can use that.
So this is a fairly good color. I mean, it's kind of has a brickish tone to it. A little bit. You can see through it, but not all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so Paolo Polonie, who makes this wine, he is originally from Italy. He was born and raised in northern Italy, in Piedmont region. And so actually all the vines that he uses, they came from Italy. They came from his family's farm.
Oh, really?
There. Yeah. And then he has his own nursery where he's,
Did you bring him over in a suitcase?
Every container, but so it's kind of cool. All the stuff came from there, and so he works with Cab and Merlot, which are both grown in Italy. Usually part of like a super Tuscan, but he has Nero d'Avola and Nebbiolo and Sangiovese and Montepulciano, that kind of stuff as well. So he calls them Mexican wines with an Italian heart. I mean, he's been in Mexico for almost 50 years. He planted these vineyards in 1993, I think, and so that's some pretty good age on these vines. I mean, we're talking like almost 30 years, which is pretty old for vines.
Sure.
And he makes wines in a really beautiful, like kind of like soft, elegant style. I mean he calls it Italian style, but essentially for this Cab Merlot, he wants there to be the rounding, sort of like rounding sculpting that you get out of aging with wood, but not really have the wood presence. And so this is aged in neutral French oak foudres. So these are like 2,500 liter giant wooden tanks that he's used for 30 vintages, basically.
Yeah.
So and so you get this. This is a very nice, like, polished, round, soft, elegant wine. There's not an aggressive tannin structure to it. This, by the way, is his real kind of like entry level red. But I think right out of the gate it performs. And I'll just mention one other thing about Paolo and this region in general is that we found in again, just like comprehensively tasting with everyone, that the vineyards and the wineries that were higher up on the mountain walls tended to avoid the problem that you can have in Valle de Guadalupe, which is like a real saline presence to the wines. As you get further down in the valley, you get this kind of like salty presence, and especially if people that have like very little water, the vine's having to like dig deeper, and it's getting. And so this guy, so his wines are almost have this like sweetness that comes, like, you can during the winter when it rains a lot, there's a waterfall that pours out of the sandstone behind his winery, and you can just put a cup up underneath that and drink it, and it's delicious, sweet water.
Wow.
Yeah, so I feel like there's almost like there's kind of like a sweetness to these wines, like, and it's in the pH balance that always reminds me of that water.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind when I was smelling this, I get a little bit of red licorice and chocolate. Mm-hmm. But that kind of plum that is so characteristic of, maybe a little, well, obviously currants, no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's a chocolate tone on the nose.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Blackberry too, it's kind of like, and kind of broad spectrum. I mean, bits of strawberry, raspberry, but on the palate, it's
what an intense and complexity on this wine. I mean, it jumps all over the palate with all these different, but yet nicely integrated. So, it has, sometimes you get complexity and it's kind of herky jerky, but this is just nicely integrated. Good acidity too.
Yeah, his wines always really have this like great flow to them. He's one of these winemakers that is like really pensive, and I guess one thing that I like about the wineries that we work with is that they tend to be farmers first and winemakers second, and so they really they get the fundamental element of winemaking. You start with good food. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so these are people that like do not mess around with corrections after the fact. It's like they work with the fruit that they've got, and so you end up with this like really polished product like this that's like coming from correctly.
But I will
farmed
tell you,
fruit.
and this is, maybe you don't get this because I'm kind of weird sometimes, but he says he likes to make Italian style wines.
Yeah.
But it almost gets rusty. Not quite. There's like this underlying rusty element, but it's integrated with the acidity, so it may not come across as rust. For me, it does.
Okay.
Don't get out of the picture there.
Oh.
Stay in the frame. I think I'm pushing you over.
A little bit.
Which is really cool because, being from Italy, he probably would like to see that when he's doing his, blending process. He probably gets involved with the blend. He's a winemaker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So he's probably looking for that.
Yeah.
A little bit. Do you get that underneath that a little bit?
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Yeah, there's
rust is not a bad thing, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
It's a positive thing. You get it heavy in Italy. A lot of Sangiovese has that rusty element. This is not as rusty as a Sangiovese from Italy.
No,
but you can feel it on the palate just a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good call. And it's funny, it almost does have that smell of rusted metal. I mean, at a point, like you can.
I'm getting a little bit of cranberry too, but it's not tart. So that's hard. That's hard to achieve, to get that cranberry without being tart.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can see the Italian in him. I mean, it's obvious, other than the name. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll take a moment to say something else that's kind of interesting here, like this Sauv Blanc and this Cab Merlot. And as well, the third wine we're going to try. These are all from a valley called Valle de Guadalupe, or Valley of Guadalupe proper.
Yeah.
But the northern viticultural region in Baja is actually made up of 7 different valleys. And so we bring wines in from all 7 of those valleys, and they're each very, very unique, microclimates, soil profiles, elevations, all this kind of stuff. And so that's one thing that if you go down there and explore this region, just know that there's an immense amount of complexity. And the other thing to add is that this is like really the youngest wine growing region in Mexico, and yet it was planted just 4 years after the U.S. signed its Constitution. So this is late 1700s.
Oh, cool. That's a good.
Really kind of cool to know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've been farming for a long time, just haven't been making wine for a long time.
Exactly.
All right.
Well, again,
that's a great wine, by the way. I think that's if you love old world wines, you'll love it. If you like new world wines, you'll love it. It's kind of right in the middle, which is really good to have that.
Yeah, good.
And a good food wine, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
That needs a steak.
It does. Yeah. And
I can drink it by itself.
And that, like you say, I mean, you could just kind of.
Now this is much darker. This goes into the kind of. I'm terrible with color, by the way. It's one of my hardest things. My wife says I'm colorblind. I'll just say it's darker than the other one. How's that?
It leans a little bit more purple.
Yeah,
too.
purple, exactly.
Yeah, but
exactly.
Yeah.
Ooh, it has some funk on the nose. I love that.
Yeah.
I think I explained that in my Sauvignon Blanc, that funk isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Funk just means it doesn't taste, it doesn't smell linear and perfect. But funk is a good thing.
Yeah. Especially in wine, it's like,
I mean, look at guys wear Axe. Come on.
So that's evidence that some people really like funk. No, so this is interesting. So here we're in a different part of the valley. This what
would they call this section of the valley?
So Solar Fortune.
We got it. And then this rolls in at about $19, hasn't it?
Maybe 21.
I can't remember what I sell this for. I sell a lot of this at the store.
Yeah, between 19.
Baya, this is one. I think it's $22.
Okay, there you go.
Val.
Yeah, $21.99.
Valle de Guadalupe.
So this is also Valle de Guadalupe, but it's from a part of Valle de Guadalupe called Francisco Sarco. So within Valle de Guadalupe, you have a few little towns, and those towns are sort of the nexuses of really sort of counties. That's the equivalent of what we would. They're called ejidos down there, but it's sort of like that's the way that land is divided within a state, and Solar Fortune. Solar is the name of a piece of land that gets a lot of sunlight out in the countryside.
Makes sense.
And then Fortune was the pen name of this like Mexican revolutionary that had to he had to sort of disappear from the country during the revolution. And no one knows exactly where he went, but his name was Francisco Sarco, and this town is called Francisco Sarco. So Solar Fortune, they sort of built this name around this sort of kind of legendary history of this part of the valley. But it's absolutely idyllic, incredibly beautiful little side valley off the side of Valle de Guadalupe. I mean, there's no name for it; it's still just called Valle de Guadalupe. But it is really a very, very unique microclimate, and it's most of this valley is quite wide, and so it's like maybe four miles across or something, the actual valley floor. Here you could throw a stone across his vineyards, and so it's really much more like a canyon.
Really?
And so there's this kind of circulation of air through between the temperature difference between the top, the canyon top and the bottom there, that give his wines always this kind of really kind of striking aromatics there, and really, really good bright acidity. These wines for reds, they tend. Now this gets 6 months.
Does he get some wind down there?
He does. There's always a breeze coming down.
Wind.
Exactly. So he never has to worry about cluster rot or powdery mildew. Cool. He doesn't apply anything. It's all organically farmed. This
has a little black olive on the nose, which is interesting to me. And then I'm getting a iron blood component.
See, that's the thing. Once that kind of you described it, that funk sort of
now it's blown off a little.
Yeah, exactly. It gets it's
the initial attack. It's still there underneath. It reminds me a lot of a Bordeaux.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it called? Did we say what it was? Cab 50 Petit Verdot. So it is a Bordeaux.
It's a Bordeaux blend. Yeah, exactly. 50-50. And Baya means berry, so that's,
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, the fact that they're splitting it 50-50 is kind of the concept there. But, yeah, this is just a super, this is kind of his, just...
Yeah, very bloody on the nose. And I just got this big hit of cinnamon, which is very interesting. Do you get that cinnamon? It's got cinnamon powder.
Yeah. It's, the classic, I always throw in spice box whenever I get this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's probably the standout spice.
Yeah, definitely. Big time cinnamon on that.
And I think, with, again, like, because of all, just think of all the things that he's mentioning here. I mean, this is good with, like, a duck confit, but it's also great with, like, any kind of, like your tacos, like, that kind of stuff. If you're doing, like, a taco dish.
How about with your French toast? No,
we have the right sparkling wine for that. But, yeah. Yeah, and so 6 months in this is actually first use French oak, which is kind of interesting because it's not reading super oaky by any means.
Man, that black olive blood component comes big time on the palate. Now, I don't know how many of you, when you were kids, you'd cut your finger and you put it in your mouth. I always did. And it was never disgusting to me. I mean,
no.
I don't have long eye teeth, so I'm not a vampire. No, it's very interesting. I like this. This is very savory.
Yeah, it does.
The most savory of.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it has that almost kind of like, Petit Verdot can have that like sort of like herbaceous upper end to it. Sort of like reminds me of like a bouquet de garni, made of like herbs de Provence.
I can see this with lamb.
Big time. For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Big time
good
lamb
call.
wine.
Yeah.
This has sort of a, how would I put it, Bordeaux / Nebbiolo / Sangiovese sort of characteristics to it.
Yeah, you're
the
right.
black olive thing.
Yeah. I mean, typically at our house we break this out with a charcuterie board.
Oh yeah.
And that's
This would be great with like pepperoni.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
this is for anybody that wants good complexity but not heavy. This is a great summer red, by the way.
Yeah.
I could drink this solo all day.
Totally. Yeah.
Solar all day.
Solar, nicely played. Yeah.
Very delicate, but complex at the same time. That's hard to achieve.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and Santiago, the winemaker Santiago Lopez. It's kind of funny. Like he's this kind of there's so many great stories of all the different winemakers that we work with down there. But Santiago, one of our first events in Seattle was with Santiago. He came up and the sommelier of this venue was like, hey, did you realize that Santiago is an Olympic gymnast? And we had no idea. I had no idea. Santiago never mentioned that he was the first Mexican to medal in the Olympics.
Really?
For floor gymnastics. And so I pulled. Wow. If you look this guy up online, it's hilarious because.
And his name's on here, right?
Yeah. It's
on the front.
Santiago Lopez. Should be on there. No? Maybe it's not there. Santiago Lopez. Yeah, Santiago Lopez.
Your notes and look it up.
Yeah, there's no tricky spelling on that one. That's pretty easy. Yeah. But yeah, Santiago Lopez.
Cool. That's a good story.
Yeah. But that just shows how humble this guy is. Like if either one of us had won the Olympic, had a medal in the Olympics.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
And if you like Longue Nebbiolo, I think you'll love this wine. This reminds me a little bit of the Longue Nebbiolo.
Yeah, that's a good call.
But it's not as expensive as some of them roll.
No.
You can get some around the same price. But the cool thing about this one, other than Longue Nebbiolo can be more rusty and all that, but this is really elegant, very easy to drink, but very complex at the same time.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Patrick has a great, like I said, he has a great palate, which is important for an importer. And that's what I noticed when I've tried all his wines. He really understands how to reach the 80% mark. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 80% of people like it. Now, we have a little surprise. We're going to play with this one a little bit. I'm just going to see if Patrick recognizes this wine, because he's had it before.
Oh, have I?
Yes, you have. And I decanted it.
Okay.
I think it needs a decant. I'm not going to give you the vintage, because that might give it away. I'm interested to try it too. I have not cracked a bottle of this. It's been in my cellar for about 3 years now. If you can call it a cellar. A closet.
It's been in his closet.
It's been in my closet for 3 years. Good color on this, but boy, the nose on this is incredible.
Just like deep.
Ooh. That has chocolate on it. And currants. A little bit of earth as well. And cinnamon. Mmm. Oh boy. Wow. maybe I shouldn't have opened that. I could have had the whole thing to myself.
Oh my God, that is delicious. Wow. Oh boy.
It's one of your wines.
That's why it's so good.
It's true. 2015. And it probably could lay down easily 5 to 8 more years.
Wow, that's cool. I think, well, anyway, thank you for doing this because it's really cool. It's one thing, I do get this question a lot from people, like how long, have you tried any back vintages of
Keep
Mexican
talking, I'm going to
wines?
grab it, show you what it is.
And how do they age? Are they ageable? And the answer is yes. I mean, here we go. Here's a 15. I feel like this is... Oh, no way. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that, actually. That's awesome. Wow. Gorgeous. Yeah.
So this is one that you still import this?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
we have the 2020 right now.
Say that.
Santos Burgos.
Brujos, that's
Yeah.
what I was going to say. But
Yeah.
2015, this is 100% Tempranillo?
Yes, yeah. Wow.
It's fairly expensive, I think.
Oh, geez, I wouldn't say that.
What does it roll in? About 40?
Yeah, 37 maybe.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
close to 40.
Yeah.
Well, that's not expensive for the quality of this wine, just
No.
saying.
Yeah, no, for sure, but that's...
But guys like me, that kind of count their pennies,
Yeah, no, for sure.
But I bought 2 bottles of this.
Wow.
And I tucked them away about 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh man, yeah. Well, and it's cool. So
it's spicy.
Oh, this is gorgeous. And Santos Burgos is one of the first. I think it's the first. And I say I think, but I mean I'm 99% certain that it's the first biodynamic, organically certified vineyard in Mexico.
Wow.
He's actually the head of the CCOF in Mexico, the organic certification organization
Sure.
out of California. But and these guys just do Tempranillo and Chardonnay, and their practices are just like they don't make any compromises. They planned it in '97, so their first vintage was really 2004, but they didn't release a wine until 2014 because they just wanted it to get get right. So they like all those other, there's no evidence of what happened during all those years. So 14 was really the first release, and so this is just the second release that they ever did, and it's just, I mean, this is just singing. It's beautiful.
It's incredible. I mean, like I said,
and one of the top end wines that we bring is like their sort of premium wine, and it's called Ananda, and it's basically every vintage they just pick absolutely perfect fruit, and they put it into these 2 barrels, and they take that off of the general clusters that they're picking, and if they can fill those 2 barrels, they make that wine, and if they can't, they don't make it. So so it's kind of a fun one, and it's a very quite a bit more expensive than this, but it's just kind of interesting. Like for the upper echelon of the wines that we bring in, that's kind of a fun. But this is a great example of.
oh man, this is nobody would regret putting this away and then popping it.
No way.
I mean, this is a fantastic wine. I mean, for a Tempranillo, this might be one of the better ones I've ever tasted.
I feel like we need it inside the glass case there at King's.
That's too inexpensive to be in the glass.
Well, let's put the Ananda.
Once a salesman, he's learned. See, he started out as not being a salesman. Now he's become pretty good at it.
Well, I just have to say, and I hope that everybody appreciates this, that honestly, like, I've just approached this project as, something I found that I thought was really interesting. And so meeting people like Stan or other, just, Washington State has some amazing owners of stores or that run wine programs that, like, I just consider it an honor to get to bring this stuff to because these guys are like, masters of their craft, and here I am bringing this stuff, that's like pretty left field, and yet they, are willing to taste it. So thank you very much for that.
Of course.
And yet I feel honored because I think these guys are doing some really amazing stuff, and
they are.
So it's cool to kind of like connect people that really understand wine with people who are making an amazing product, and then they, play the role of bringing it to you guys. So.
Yeah, you were just up at my buddies Seifert and Jones yesterday, weren't you?
Oh, I was. Yeah, Ted's one of the best.
Ted's a good friend of mine. So I'm glad you're up there.
Yeah, he
understands.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, Yeah, he was the very first person in Washington that I poured Mexican wine for.
Really?
Yeah, because I knew he wouldn't bullshit. He wouldn't.
I was fourth.
Probably something like that. Yeah. Yeah. No, I knew he wouldn't. He would tell me straight.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the point. And
Murphy is really quiet.
No, he was like, you know, we need to start a Mexican wine section. I said, I'll print you the sign.
Thanks, Patrick.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so
really
glad. We've been
appreciate
trying to get this together for over a year now.
hosting this. Thanks for pulling that out and
Yeah.
for pitching the Lomita. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for taking a little time out of your day. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see what's going on, because there's some cool things going on, right?
I watched that. That was my entire fair ride over. Just
That's how
very
bored it was.
entertaining. No, very entertaining actually.
Yeah. You keep watching, and I'll keep helping you spend your wine dollars wisely.